BIM and VDC, virtual design and construction, are terms that seem to be used in pretty much every construction project now. And as you may have experienced, may have seen, success varies. And there are a number of factors that play a role there. The diagram that you see on the screen is a graph that came from a great article by Josh Oakley that was published, I think, about a year ago or so, and he describes some reasons behind suboptimal results that people saw after implementing BIM, Building Information Models. And a big factor, he states, is it's an organizational change. It's a change in how your people and processes work and behave in your organization. And he states that to make BIM adoption successful, it has to become part of your company's DNA, and not just one team, but it really needs to go through the entire organization. It's not just buying a tool, it's changing the way you work. So the graph, as you can see, starts with the current level, the current capabilities, and then at some point you decide to go the BIM route. And what people expect when they buy the tools that enable that new process, the expected curve is that you jump right away to the higher level and you get to the desired point. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen, and what you see is that sometimes people go down in capabilities before they go back up. Now, Josh states in his article that the optimal route is one that is managed, and that is this curve over here, which means guided adoption of the new technology, of the new methods, so that your organization really grows into that desired new process organically and in a sustainable way. So process change it is. Now let's start by asking, what is process change? And like we just said, process change is more than just changing a tool, which would fall in the category of task automation, and that's often seen as the low-hanging fruit. And an example there could be the transition that took place going from the manual drafting practice to the use of 2D CAD. That falls in the task automation category. Another example is the phenomenon that I think most of us have been exposed to by now, the phenomenon of Hollywood BIM, so known as the presentation of a presumed new process by spinning a model or by showing a movie of a simulated schedule plan, and which is put together as a heroic effort by a small team, and that does not necessarily have an impact on the current business processes. It's an extra deliverable that's provided during a bit presentation, but does not necessarily reflect a change in the way that your company works. So that is the Hollywood movie, but I have to say that sometimes using these new tools does feel a little bit like you're on the set of Star Wars. So not entirely out of context here. One of the slides that we keep using during our training and mentoring sessions is a slide that contains a graph that came from a work by Kim Caputo, and the graph really nicely illustrates the phases that a team typically goes through when adopting a new process. When you start with a new set of tools, a new set of methods, you are at the stage of uninformed certainty. It is something you bought or something that you start, and you think that it's going to solve all problems in the world. This is going to be fantastic, and from now on everything will be so easy. Now, as soon as you start really using those new tools and processes, you get to the stage of informed doubt. At that point, you really start to use it on your project and you think, oh, wait a minute, that's more difficult than what I had expected. And it looked maybe a little bit easier during the demonstration. The risk that you're facing there is that that downward trend is going further and might lead to a total loss of confidence, which of course is something you absolutely want to prevent. So during training and workshops, we always say, we hope that the group will be at this point at the end of the training, the point of realistic concern. Realistic concern means that you understand what the implications are of adopting these new methods, that you understand what is needed in order to enable this change, and when you understand that, you can start to build a plan. And building a plan is the first step towards informed certainty. Everybody knows what is expected in the new way that you're doing things, and you've got a new process in place. At that point, you're at the same level of confidence again, but with a new process, a more effective and a process that has the benefits of virtual design and construction in our case. Now, all of this might look quite scary and may make you wonder whether this is not going to be a change that is too big to handle. Maybe it's too much, but I can say rest assured we have done this before. We know how to get there, and we can help you get past the hurdles by using a managed approach to get to that higher level, as shown so nicely in the graph that we saw earlier in the second slide. Also know that the time investment in the people who start this journey today is an investment in the people who will be the leaders in your companies tomorrow. VDC is here. It has great benefits, and it will be a standard soon. A little bit about training the Vico way, so the ingredients of the way that we work with companies to get them up to speed on VDC. We've got 4 boxes, and these 4 boxes you will see in most of the documents that we share with you. And the 4 boxes contain the main steps of the training and implementation process. The first one is consulting, and consulting is all about informing the organization through online sessions, lunch and learn events, and monthly feedback on progress. And the goal of the consulting is to inform the whole organization about what's going on. So I mentioned the DNA of your company that needs to change in order to adopt this whole process. Consulting is the first step of making everybody aware of what's going on, so that it's not just that team in the office on the second floor who are working on this. It becomes something that everybody talks about and everybody is involved with. The train box reflects the use of prepared training materials, canned steps, canned materials that are used for the first use of the software or process. So that means on-site instructions, hands-on training, using standard materials that you know will work, which means that you have a good first experience with that new process. The third box is mentoring, and in the mentor box we work on your own projects, but together with Vico team members, so we're like the training wheels when you learn to ride a bike. And then support is your lifeline, and you can contact us whenever you need us, and we'll jump on a go-to meeting to answer your question that may have come up during work on your project. I think that most of the attendees of the webinar today have probably heard about the Vico Services Group. Vico's services team members are members of your extended project team, and have a construction background, and prepare deliverables such as 3D models, constructability analysis, model-based cost plans and schedules, and yes, also 4D simulations, which are a derived outcome of that 5D integrated model. And it allows you to take advantage of the 5D deliverables while you learn how to do it as well. So you can have today what you can do tomorrow. Using the experience of all of the projects that we've completed with the services group, it has enabled us to put together training and mentoring materials that just work. I mean, we use it ourselves to ramp up new people that join the team, and training ranges from the Vico office introduction training to VDC management training or OPM training, a training that teaches you how to run a team of VDC engineers yourself. And after the training, after that particular training, you can then decide to either build your own team or work with Vico to get a team that already has been trained. Of course, after the training, that's when the rubber hits the road, and that's a critical point on the learning curve. Like I said, support is included in training packages to avoid the "you're on your own now" effect. We will make sure that we'll help you after the training as well. And to ensure that everybody continues to use the programs and methods that were trained, we've come up with a series of fun exercises. We call them follow-up assignments. Those are assignments that trainees will receive after completion of the training, and by doing that, you make sure that you continue to use the programs, you continue to use what you've learned. When the attendee completes the follow-up assignment successfully, that person will get Vico certified, and that, among other things, gives them access to the what we call the certified user group. You can see a screenshot of that group over here on the right side, and it has quite some users who share a lot of VDC information, so best practices, questions, run into a certain challenge, what do I do to get to the best solution, that kind of thing. Really a valuable group to get involved in. A little bit more on the rubber hitting the road topic. Of course, training your team learns you where to click and how to go through the 5D process step by step. But like with driving, after you've learned how to drive, you sometimes need directions. And the mentoring part of our approach provides those directions by working with you on your projects. And some of the examples that I've got listed here are working on the creation of a knowledge database. So after the training, you either get a set of content that's predefined and you need to customize it, or you need to prepare the content for the next project in which BIM will use, and you need to get ready and work with the architect to make sure that the content that's prepared works well within the 5D VDC environment. Those kind of things we can help with, and that falls in the mentoring box. As part of the mentoring, we of course also share our best practices, and by having a services part of the business, we've had to develop these processes ourselves over the years, and some of these processes, such as MPS or model progression specification, maybe some of you have seen that during an earlier webinar, and virtual warehouse, those are things that have proven their value and are probably a valuable piece of input for your team, either out of the box, so as is, or customized. Regardless, it will be something that you don't have to figure out on your own. Josh Oakley in his article refers to the need for support in the right places of the organization, and we totally agree with that statement. It is very important to get support from an executive level sponsor who makes sure that the goals that are set by the company are achieved, and that the right people are committed to achieving those goals. So it is a new process, and therefore it will have an impact on more than just one person. Remember, it's an organizational change. What we've seen in some companies is that there is one person who becomes responsible, one or two, or a small team, that type of thing, and the implementation of VDC stops there. We believe that that is not the best way, and that full employment or full deployment will not take place in that case, because not enough people in the organization are exposed or become involved in it. And that might lead to the worst case scenario that we saw earlier, which was the total loss of confidence. The org chart that you see on the slide shows the key components of what we think will be a successful team. And of course the executive sponsor is here, the needed person in the organization to say, yes, we are going to do this, and these are the people who will help. And then the best first step is to put together a group of people that are in each of these boxes. So VDC director is the person who oversees the effort, make sure that everybody is working the same directions, staffs the projects that you work on. The VDC expert / trainer is the person who has experience with all of the components of the virtual design and construction solution. So that person knows how the software works. Then on the right side, there's people who don't necessarily are involved, who are not necessarily involved with the VDC effort on a daily basis, but do contribute to making this thing successful by getting involved on a part-time basis. So there's design expert, which could be the person who's responsible for your design management. Maybe today the coordination effort, the cost expert, your estimating team, your cost controller. All of these people need to provide their insights to make sure that the new process does everything that they are doing today with their traditional means and methods. And then of course the scheduling expert, superintendents, site people need to be involved too, because it's them who eventually need to use the final deliverable. This brings us to the all of the above slide. So the CSP, or Customer Success Plan, means that you get all of our training, all of our mentoring, and all of our best practices, and we make that available for you. And we will consult, support, and help you achieve the goals that you had in mind. So our promise, and it's the graph shows what's in there. It's we provide a number of hours for all these things that I presented in the previous slides. So a number of hours for consulting, training, mentoring, and support. The only thing we ask is your commitment to sign up for a one-year plan and assign team members to go on this journey with us. So your team will be brought up to speed by our team of VDC experts, people who have done this before, like I mentioned in one of the previous slides. And each month you will receive an update on the status of your team through monthly CSP reports, which includes completed content, hours consumed, status of set goals, and the people in your team. So that org chart that we saw earlier will make sure that you get the right people in the right boxes. And we can focus this plan as desired and as defined in the goal setting stage. When you get on board and get started with a CSP, this diagram shows some of the typical steps that your team will go through. So all of it starts with a meeting in which we strategize and plan what the goals are that you would like to focus on. And that doesn't have to be for the whole year at once. It might be for the next quarter, and we decide what you want to emphasize during the first quarter, second quarter, etc. And we always start with an introduction training, so that is the hands-on piece where you learn the software, but then it's followed by 3 tracks. The design track contains the content planning, so make sure that that connection to your building information model is working correctly. Model management, making sure that you've got content in place that works with your standard cost content. The cost track contains development of your cost knowledge database. You probably have existing cost content and will help you convert that into something that works within this integrated environment. The cost planning box contains work with that standard content, making sure that you can create the reports that you need to generate out of the system, and preparing standardized content in combination with the model content that you have. Schedule planning has a dotted line here, which means that you can use that as a standalone track, an isolated track as well, if desired. It contains getting familiar with not just the software, but the concepts behind the software as well. There's a lot of CPM knowledge, a lot of optimization techniques that we've developed that we will work through with your team. Production control means once you've got the schedule in place, you want to make sure that that is tracked in the field, and of course the mechanisms that are built into the solution allow you to check what the variance is between what's planned and what's happening in reality to establish that feedback loop, which then results in a learning curve, which is so valuable. And then of course, in the third column over here, all of the mentoring and support hours means working with your team to develop skills in each of the boxes that we identified in the org chart. Very important piece of the program is to communicate all of the accomplishments by the team that goes through this program with the rest of the company. Inform the organization to generate enthusiasm by everyone, so that you can get the help that you need, and so that everybody starts to get hungry to get involved too. At the end of each stage, there's a validation and strategizing session again to see what the current status is and to reset or to set goals for the next phase.